Hey guys, today we have Jonathan Gerber, our November guest designer of the month for the Balloon Guild. We're doing his interview today and let's get started. How did you get into balloons?
So I it's a little bit of a story. I was a server at a Bennigan's, and I used to write on the receipts like, "May the Lord bless you and keep you," and I would hand them to customers. And my manager found out and told me I wasn't allowed to do that anymore. So after a little bit of a conversation with him, I basically put in my 2 weeks notice. And it's the first time I ever quit a job without having another job. I had a buddy who did balloon animals, like balloon twisting, and he always talked about how much money they made, and it was more than I was making as a server. So I asked him, "Do you think you could get me a job?" So he put me in touch with the manager of that company, and that guy told me that, well, we're kind of full. I don't really have any availability. But I already knew all these guys like called out left and right for no reason. They just didn't feel like going to work, so they called out, which is not great. But I knew that was happening because I knew a bunch of the artists. So I told him, if you would be willing to let me pick up shifts, I'm willing to just work when I can, assuming I would get 2 or 3 days a week. And he said, well, if that's what you're willing to do, then yeah, that'd be great. Um, so then I picked up shifts, and I worked like 3 shifts, 2 weeks in a row. And then after that, it was full time. So I started as a balloon twister for a while, and then I became the manager of that company. And then later, I became the owner of that company. And then, as far as balloon decorating goes, I was kind of not sinking. I was just super busy with managing and owning a balloon twisting company. We were doing like over 200 restaurant shifts a week. I just had a lot. It was busy. So
Crazy.
I had a balloon artist who asked me if I wanted to buy a decor company. And I was like, no, like I don't have time for what I'm doing now. I definitely don't want to add anything to my plate. And I hung up the phone with her, and I felt like God was telling me, you're just gonna say no, huh? You're not gonna investigate that request at all. So I ended up calling her back, and I said, put me in touch with a person. I'll at least just take a look at. I need to know what I'm saying no to before I say no to it. So I talked to this lady, and she's like some kick-ass New York breast cancer survivor lady. So it's like you will fall in love with her in 2 seconds. And everybody, there's not a single person who doesn't love Bobby. Um, and she's very personality wise similar to the Bobby in the decor industry that we all know and love. Um, but so I did. I called her on the phone and I asked her, "Look, I don't want to waste a lot of time. Like already, I thought I was going to say no. So I'm like, how much at the end of the day? All bills are paid. How much are you putting in your pocket?" I wanted to know like what her net income was personally. Um, and she's like, "Oh, like 100,000." And I'm like, I'm busting my tail right now to make 100 grand. I'm like, I will figure out a way to make this work because that's a lot of money. So I ended up agreeing to actually physically meet with her. And then, like I said, 2 seconds after meeting with her, you fall in love with this woman. And she was telling me about her company. And when she finally was talking about wanting to sell it, I just was feeling very much like seeing myself in the future, sitting in her seat, hoping and praying that this company that I built from the ground up really has value to somebody else to want to take it and buy it. And I had looked at her numbers, and her numbers, the number she gave me wasn't her take home pay. It was actually her gross income, which is really a big difference. But by this time, I was already on the hook because I really love this lady. And I was seeing myself in her shoes, and I'm like, the payment I was making for the company that I had bought, the entertainment company, was coming to an end. So I knew that even if her company was a big flop, I could pay her what she was asking for because I'm already used to paying that amount every month. So I didn't try to talk her down. on what she offered or what she wanted. I just really wanted her to get a win, and I knew I could provide that for her, and I knew that it would potentially be something that'd be good for us. So that was it. I mean, I said yes, and then started working with her. I made her fire like her only real employee, but he was like, I've never met a man who was like for real sexist. Like this dude was bad. Um, so I ended up taking him out to lunch because I needed to see, are you just a jerk? Or is it you don't like the owner of the company and you have a hard time working with her? Or is this across the board? And it was across the board. So I made her fire him as part of the deal to get her company, which was fun. My first firing happened before I
Wow.
even owned the company. I made someone else do it.
Awesome. So then what happened?
So the cool thing was I had intentions of running the company myself. On the entertainment side, I was doing all the work, like the office work. I actually went to work balloons. I was cutting that back because of how busy I was with everything else, and I didn't really need the income from that as much anymore. So I was planning on doing all of the office work on this, but she brought in somebody to help her work and get the office stuff done in the meantime. And because I kept driving like an hour and a half to meet with her like 2 or 3 times a week, this was the first business I bought. So there was a lot of like, I'm showing up every other day. I am helping you do things, all of that stuff. And then the person she brought into work was doing a really good job. So I kind of was like, hey, do you just want to keep working? Um, I really think you're doing a great job, and I don't really see the need to replace you. And I was going to do it myself, but I'd rather try to make this work with you. So we agreed on like, I can agree to pay you for X amount of hours a week. Um, at, and then we'll just see what happens. And if you go over that, we'll talk about it. And really, we never, ever, ever talked about it ever because we were always busy enough where that was really a non-issue. So, and then from there, we grew that business and made it better than what it was for the former owner, which I'm proud of. And then when you buy a company, people in the area hear that someone is willing to buy a company. And in Orlando, there's just a lot of older decorators who have been around for a while. So we ended up buying a few more. One company I really just bought for their stuff. Another company ended up buying them and getting some more. So I bought a few, and we recently just bought another one, like 3 months ago.
Oh, wow.
So, which is good. So far, so good.
Awesome. So I just have a couple questions that this has sparked. Was Shelly, we all know and love Shelly, your wife, was she around for all of this?
She was around so I was at a Christian college for 2 years, and I met Shelly in my second year of that. And the first year of college was amazing. I loved it. I had so much fun. The second year was absolutely miserable. The first year you take all your gen ed classes. You're supposed to do that again for your second year to get your AA. Um, but I didn't really want to. I wanted to get into like the classes that I picked as a major, and most of them were boring, and I hated it. And I was working full time, living on my own, paying bills, going to college. I also took like 18 credit hours one semester. That might have had something to do with it. That's a lot. And at the end of the second year, I was just miserable. Like, I don't know that I want to do this again. And I didn't take out a loan. So right now this is cheap, but I spent like 10 grand each year of my own money to go while I was going. So I didn't know that I wanted to do it again. And this is when I was just a balloon twister working for the other company. And I had met Shelly sometime during that process towards the second year. And then towards the end of the second year, I was offered a competition against basically a female version of myself to recruit new employees, and get new restaurants for the business. Um, I'm on a college campus, and you wanted me to get people who would agree to twist balloon animals for tip money. It was easy for me, and I was like, I know I'm a little bit awkward and weird, but at this time I was way more awkward and weird, like super introverted. um, I really struggled a lot with in social settings. And in this case, like I was at a college campus, so I had like 12 people who wanted to learn how to do balloons, and I found like a handful of restaurants. And the thing was the competition was, they said it was for a trainer's position, but it turned out to be for the manager of the business. And the reason they made the competition, this is a cool story. The reason they made the competition was because the former manager was not doing his job at all. Like, we're supposed to get our schedule every 2 weeks or every week or something. And I was literally driving to my favorite restaurant without a schedule on the day when the first day of the new schedule is supposed to be. And he would call me and tell me where I was supposed to go. But because I didn't know where I was supposed to go, I was just going to go where I wanted to make money. Um, so it was that way for all the entertainers. And we all were very frustrated and super grumpy, like, dude, do your job. That's all we want. So during this process of being frustrated, we ended up getting a new scheduling system. And in that scheduling system, there's a place for people's emails. And this was the first time any of us had access to the owner of the business. And I started to type up an email to him to tell him what a terrible job the other manager, his name was John also. I started typing up what a terrible job he was doing and how I could do so much better of a job. And while I was typing that email, I felt like God was saying, so tell me how this is loving to John. Tell me how this loves him as a human and as a person. And I was like, God basically told me, if you can write this email in a way that loves everybody involved, do it. And I couldn't figure out how to do it because it was really a very selfish email. I just wanted his job. So then I had to ask myself, well, what does actually loving him look like? And it doesn't look like trying to take his job. If he was my kid or my best friend, what would I want for him? And it would be, I want him to do a good job. I want him to have support. I want him to, like, you're doing the job. You might as well do it really well, right? So instead of being frustrated, I ended up calling him and just like, dude, I don't know what's going on in your life, but the schedule's not coming out on time. Like this, none of this is a surprise. If you need help, let me know. I'm here for you. Otherwise, just know I'm praying for you. And all I ever got from him was like, dude, yeah, you're right. There's so much going on. You don't even know. Like, that was it. I have no idea why he wasn't doing his job. We never became like really good friends. But when I talked to the owner later, like, dude, why did you pick me for this competition? We've never spoken. You had no knowledge of who I was. You knew nothing. He said, well, when I was firing John, he told me I needed to look at you because before that, we were going to hire this other person who did exactly what I wanted to do because I've been communicating with her via email since we got that system. So she wrote the email that I wanted to write, was talking to the owner of that business and had the job locked up. But because I loved this other guy in the only way that I could, which really just meant being nice to him, he recommended they take a look my way whenever he was getting fired. And for some crazy reason, they listened to the guy they were firing about who they should consider. And then they created this competition, which I would have failed miserably at because all of the friends I had personally already did balloons. I wouldn't have been able to get people to, I wouldn't have been able to hire new people, but I'm on a college campus and was able to get 12 people as an awkward introverted person. And then finding restaurants wasn't that big a deal. So the other person found like one friend and got one restaurant. You stack that up to 12 people and 3 or 4 restaurants, and it wasn't even a competition. So that's the part that it's like started during that process. Shelly was along towards the end. So then they're like, well, do you want to be the manager of the company? I'm like, that sounds a lot better than going and beating my head against the wall for another year of college. Sure. So that was like when I stepped in, and she was a part of that process. And then she was a real part of the process of becoming the owner of the company too.
Sounds like, first of all, I'd like to say you are not weird and awkward. We love you. Um, sounds like
I
there was
mean,
some
I
like,
think all balloon people are a little weird. I
yeah,
think
true.
that's the way it is, and I love it. I love the balloon community.
I feel like there was some divine intervention there and that,
Oh
it
yeah, for
put
sure.
you on the right path and here you are. So how did you end up with Party People Events?
Um, so the company that I bought first was called Balloon Connection, and I bought another company for their products, and then I bought Joette's company, which was called Party People Celebration Company. And when I was asking her to come on a ride with me to help me make it's like an 8-foot orange or something. I had never made anything like this before, and so I had her with me, and on the entertainment side, we had like a whole lot of crazy stuff going on, and I it it turns out, in my opinion, God was dismantling part of that business because he wanted me to be uncomfortable to push me in a different direction. Um, so I was communicating some of that stuff with her, and I had known Joette only on a business level for, I don't know, a couple years, but it wasn't like we had a relationship. It was, I had called her when I was thinking about doing decor, and basically I'm like, hey, I looked you up. I don't really want to be your competition. I don't know how long it would take me to even feel like I could call myself that for you, but I would love to work with you, whatever. And then we never really did work together, but that was kind of how the conversation went. So I had her helping me on this job because I knew she knew more than I did. And when we were talking on the van ride there, I made the comment, and I've had this thought internally, but I don't say this stuff out loud to people all the time. Now I do because I feel more confident in who I am. But I was like, in a world where Marley doesn't want your business or anything else, I hope someday if you ever want to sell it, that you would think of me to do it. And I thought to myself, crap, you just said that out loud. I think you just ended this friendship. Like, you may just became a threat to her, right? Like, and I know now that that's not really how that should have ever been taken. But at the time, that's what I thought. Like, oh man. So she's like, well, I might be able to make that happen sooner than you think, which blew my mind. But she had already been thinking of some other opportunities that she wanted to do. She already had Balloon Boss and Balloon Coach on her mind and was trying to consider, how can I get to a point where that's something I can do while I still have this company that's making me work all these weird hours and every weekend and all this stuff. So we chatted and chatted, and I think it was like 6 weeks later or something like that, ended up buying Party People Celebration Company, which I love the name. It's just extremely long. So I'm like, let's just make it all Party People events. I love the Party People part of it. So now all the businesses end up being under Party People events.
How big is your staff currently?
So in my shop where I show up to work during the week, my wife shows up. I have a guy named Cam and a person named Emily who shows up. These are full-time people. Ginger is the person who I hired when I was buying Bobby's company. She's a full-time person. And then we have a girl named Megan who is part-time, and she was our more lead office person who, because of her part-time, is going back to supporting Ginger more. Then we have a married couple, Jan and Dan. They actually own one of the, or they owned one of the businesses that I bought, and then they wanted to just keep working. So they work pretty much, they're like owners, like they work like owners do. I just make sure they have what they need. They use my money to buy balloons and pay for stuff. Otherwise, they book their own jobs, they go do their own jobs, they just enjoy not having, they enjoy, if I don't want to do this job, I just get you guys to do it. Or if I want to take a week off, we can. And to them, that's valuable enough that they sold their company over it. And they don't want to quit working. So they work as much, I don't know how much they work. I mean, it ends up being maybe 20, 30 hours a week. And then other than that, it's part-time help when we need extra people.
Very cool. So this may be totally off topic, but super helpful for anyone that is looking to kind of like leave the show. What are things that you look for when you're about to buy a business? Like what are the, like obviously you mentioned the first one was the net sale, gross net sales,
Yeah,
or
I
what
want to
you're putting
know
in your
like
pocket.
I want to know what that business makes. And then I really want to know. So I look at their business online. What do I see? Is the quality, do they look like a business that is trying to grow? Is the quality of their work good? Like, so you kind of get a sense for what they're like as far as the product and all of that, that their customers are used to. And then I will go from there and I want to know what are your prices. One of the companies I bought, the one from Jan and Dan, I looked at their prices and I realized like a lot of people, they weren't paying themselves both employee money and owner money. So all they were making was one or the other, however they wanted to say it. But I needed to replace them with employees. And after that, I still wanted owner money. And there wasn't any left to pay both. So I told them, based on your prices, like, I would love to buy your business, but I can't. Like, I have to pay you if you're the employee. Now I have to pay you to do what you've been doing, but that doesn't leave anything left. You guys have only been making money as employees or as owners, but not paying your employees. Um, so I made them raise their prices, and then we talked 6 months later, and they came back. They're like, "You'd be surprised." I'm like, "I'm not really surprised, but you're surprised. Like, we only lost customers that you really didn't want anyways." Like, okay, great. So cut out the people who I don't really want to work for pennies for, and let's move up the ladder. And so they, I want to see what their product pricing is, and to make sure that it's at least, it might not be where ours is now, but I want it to be in the ballpark where I'm willing to do it for this customer. And then what we do for those customers is we honor previous prices while letting them know that, we are raising prices. And but I don't want to lose the customer out of the gate before they get to see that we can still produce high quality work and do a great job. Um, and then you have to look at their books. And I also need to make sure that the owner is willing to stay on in some kind of capacity. And I need to make sure that we're physically capable of getting their jobs done. Like, I know somebody's selling their business, but they're like 2 hours away, and their business, I love the look of their business. It's real. I think their business looks nicer than mine online. We do a lot more work than they do, but I love the way their business looks. But it's just too far away, and I've tried to dream up of ways to have somebody work there, but I just don't have it. So you have to be able to do the job too.
Um, I've got some little notes here.
It's okay.
So again, off topic. I just things that are popping in my head. Um, do you have the recipe for your style of organic garland, or do you mind telling us how you do it? Like if your cluster is 8s or
So
6s or 4s.
ADHD has ruled the day for a very long time. And I've done organic garland 6 different ways, including like not that long ago. And somebody could watch me make organic garland, and I'm just making them in duplets, all duplets, throw them on the ground, then put them on a 260, tie them together. And then I'll build sideways and up and all this to make it one piece, but I make it the shape I want while I'm building it. Then I've done some where I'm just making quads and put them together, and then I add on little, I call them clouds, just little clusters of balloons on top of that. And then I had an employee who doesn't work with me anymore, thank you, Jesus, who took 4 hours to make like a 10-foot garland that was going to be on a kid's backdrop. And I'm like, okay, this isn't, I don't, my prices don't add that into the factor. Like, this isn't going to work. And I realized he's being creative, but he's slow and he's taking too much time. So then I realized I can't just let my employees, I can't show them a picture and say it just needs to look like this, because that's what we were doing. Is this, we looked at pictures. I like the way all of this organic looks. We can make it look like that. There's probably 6 different ways you can do it. But I was giving too much freedom and it was costing us. So I like the way that Sarah Meyer has done her organic columns. And I have a recipe in the guild that is, so she gave us columns. I like some bits on Flavia's organic garland that she does. So I've taken some components from both of those, and we have made so I also like Alyssa Lane uses the term standard, deluxe, and luxury garland. So we use those terms now in our business because I like them. And most of the time we get hired to just make deluxe garland. And that is the recipe that I took and kind of combined Sarah's and Flavia's, some bits from it, to create a 30-foot arch, which is in the guild. And I do need to take our information and tweak it all and put it all in there. But that's basically the recipe that we use now.
I hear you with all that. I'm constantly trying new styles, and I've got one that I kind of started with, and I'm still stuck on that one, but I'm always trying all the new ones and mixing and matching. And so I hear you. No one could ever walk in and be like, this is how you do your garlic. It's like, sometimes that's how I'm
Yeah.
feeling that day.
Yeah, but there's things. So I like, at the end of the day, my employees are the ones doing most of the hands-on work. Right now, my wife is the one. She loves building, and she is building all kinds of stuff. She likes trying new things. So what I try to do now is realizing you guys are the ones that have to build this. One, I need to make sure that it's clear and concise, the recipes that I'm asking you to use. And then two, if you're done with it and there's things that we need to edit and tweak, then you need to let me know and we'll do it. So even the organic garland recipe that I have in our thing, and it does say inspired by Sarah Myers because it is mostly hers with a couple little things from Flavia's. Even that I need to just tweak a little bit, like just change a couple of the numbers around. And that's like a never ending scenario of just tweaking your recipe till you get it how you like it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point for people to know, is that when they're building recipes that they've gotten from the Balloon Guild, if there's something that's a little bit different or they found a different way to make it work, that you guys are always open to hearing that feedback, so that maybe those recipes could be tweaked a little bit.
It's also why we try to give the Canva template link so that you can actually copy the template to your own Canva file, and you can put in you can change numbers if you want. You could change it up however you want. Doesn't matter. I mean, that's what a link is. A template link is for you to make it your own.
Yeah, I love that feature. I think it's my favorite.
Yeah.
Also to add little notes in there too. That's what I've been using it for.
All right. So where do you add the notes? Do you add them right in the recipe?
Yeah, like if I go back to it, I'll like for me, I use a agenda. So a lot of times I'll put like for the sizing, I'll put like my 0.7 and 0.8.
Yeah, so by the way, so we have had a inflation guide in the Balloon Guild, and it was really tiny. Like if you printed it out, it was a really tiny thing. I ended up redoing that whole thing. So now it's like 3 pages and they're all perfect size. And on that guide is, and these are for my pieces of equipment, twin air, a precision air, and then there's room for you to put your own, you can write it in and you can put your own numbers on all of it. And that could also be a working file that over time, if I need to edit or tweak things, then I can. But I think a lot of people, when they join the guild, they don't always know what's there. And that is the one thing I use more than any other thing. Like it's used every single day in my shop. We have it either laminated or in a protector and taped to my wall by our workstations.
Smart.
Love that. So you have a warehouse, you don't have a storefront.
I mean, technically we have a place that's a storefront, but we have a drape covering the entire window. We don't have any signage. I tried to start a storefront, like, I think our grand opening was early March 2020. So it was like a really cool grand opening, and now we can't do anything. But where my place is, even though it's in a small town, it's not in a great location for foot traffic. And I think I started the storefront out of boredom because the company was running itself mostly, and I wanted to just be involved in growth somehow. But after COVID, I'm like, I don't really want to pay someone to sit around here for like 3 customers a week. And most of our business is corporate anyway. So um, I do work out of a warehouse, which is in the back of a strip plaza area. And then our storefront place is connected, but it's just a big storage unit. And then we have another storage unit on the other back side of it.
That's cool. And what kind of CRM do you use? Do you use one?
So I use Serenity right now. I was using All Pro Web Tools, and I'm gonna be like, I know that everybody's like, you should have a CRM, and I've actually pushed that idea myself. Um, but I know that, and maybe part of it's just the transfer, like this is all super new for us. Um, I'm not sure that Serenity is actually something that we need, or honestly, like a great CRM. I think if you have to have some way of keeping your contacts reachable, um, a way to market to them, which is right now what I really want to use Serenity for, is for their marketing power. And I think they probably do a really good job with that. Um, but my office people use their own email servers or whatever to they use their own email servers. They don't go into Serenity to email back and forth. Um, so they're like, if we basically had access to each other's emails, and if it's a company email, and then we do, then why do we need to use Serenity's email platform? We don't. Um, and then I do like that Serenity captures like Facebook messages and text and everything. That's probably the best part for me because it's really hard to keep up with. Oh, where did Katie leave that message for me? Was it on my phone? Was it on a Facebook message? Was it in an email? And if it was an email, which one? I don't know. So having that is a good feature. Um, but we have been thinking like, is this something that we need? Like, do we really, really need a CRM? I think we're going to keep it because otherwise I'm paying for something like MailChimp and a couple other things, which is all going to end up costing me the same amount of money. So I think I'm just going to keep it for what it is.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Good. Go ahead.
I was saying awesome.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, so I just have a question. What advice do you have for balloon artists, whether they're new or they've been in the industry for however many years?
So there's things that I feel like I've learned along the way, and some of this starts with when I was teaching balloon entertainers how to do a good job in a restaurant working for tips. And my very first bit of advice is when you're at work, don't worry about the money. Like you will make more of it if you think less of it. Like if you think more of just doing a good job, being a good person, doing your very best everywhere you go, and you're not doing it because you're trying to make more money, you're doing it because it's the best thing you can do, then you're going to make more money. So I feel like on some levels, and I've had to do this with myself in the decor part of it, is I found myself at one point using this phrase a lot. Well, the client didn't pay for that. It'd be cool if they did, but they didn't. And sometimes when you're saying that, it's you're talking about just some easy add-ons that don't really cost us very much, but we know it would make a huge difference. Or if you submitted this proposal to your client and they did everything but this one little thing that maybe it was like maybe it's $1,000 job and this would have made their, and they had to cut it because it was like an extra $100, and you're like, that $100 would make a huge difference to your event. I like the idea now of saying, I want my clients to know if you give me $1,000, I'm going to give you 1,100 in return. That idea that I'm always going to give you more than you pay for. There's times when I've called the client, I'm like, I know you didn't order this, but was it because you didn't want it, or was it a budget thing? Because if it's because you didn't want it, I really just want to give it to you because I think it's going to make your event so much better. Like, I think those clients are going to be your clients forever when they know that you're that kind, like you just want their event to look really good. So I would say, don't worry about the money, worry about focusing on doing the things you know are right, and then get help. So I was recently in an accident like a month ago, and I feel like I was literally 2 feet away from basically being killed by, like, being manslaughtered by an 80-year-old lady. She T-boned me. I slammed on the brakes, which meant I was not 2 or 3 feet farther out in the road than I was, and she hit the driver's side tire. And it kind of wrecked me. Like, physically, I was able to walk away with just bumps and bruises, like my neck's a little bit jacked up, but nothing's broken. I have a concussion I'm dealing with, which isn't fun still, but it really had me thinking. And then there's other things too that are going on in the world that we know about that just had me thinking about, like, what's really, really important. And some of this, I'm teaching at Bloom Boss Summit very soon. So some of it I've been thinking of for the class. And I have been thinking, like, what are the most important things in my business? And more than that is why. Like, if you're in the business just to make money, I don't think that's a good enough. I think you have to know, why am I making money? And what do I need it for? And if you're making money to be there for your family and support your family, but you're working 80 hours a week to do it, is that really, are you really being successful, or whatever? So really consider growing your business in a way that's going to meet the reason why you're doing it. So if you want to be there for your family and be successful and all that, you have to be there for them physically. They don't just want your money, they want your time and your person. So you need to consider, while you're growing and getting bigger, what decisions are you saying yes to that are actually going to make you less successful at your real goal? Or find a different way to say yes to it, like hire people or use other people to get things done or whatever.
That's great advice.
Can't really do it alone. Yeah.
Here's my heart. Do you want to jump into this speed round questions?
Yeah.
Sure, I will do my bestest.
Okay, so it's yes or no answers. We've made this very simple.
Okay.
No
All
thinking, no explaining. You have to pick one or the other. So it's
All right, no
choices. Okay.
Okay.
Work or play?
I like working, so work.
Okay. Money or happiness?
Happiness.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Morning or evening?
Morning.
Sweet or salty?
Sweet.
Do you watch shows one episode at a time, or do you binge watch a whole season?
It's kind of like a perpetual binge, like, just doesn't stop. I don't always get one episode even. It's just part of it until I can
Finish it.
You said no explanations. I got it.
That's
So,
fair. That's fair.
You can explain it. It's okay.
Yeah. Do you shower at night or in the morning? Or sometimes both?
yes, both.
Okay. Would you rather find your dream job or win the lottery?
Dream job.
Physical strength or mental strength?
Mental strength.
Are you more of an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm an introvert who practices being extroverted.
Yeah. It's funny, when I was picking these questions, I was answering them as you, and that's what I would have said as well. Do you prefer driving or flying?
I'm going to say flying.
Would you rather travel to the past or to the future?
Definitely the future.
Are you more of a thinker or more of a doer?
Probably more of a doer.
Street smarts or book smarts?
I'm probably more book smart, I think.
Okay. Do you learn by watching or learn by doing?
Doing.
Fresh food or fried food?
See, there's the right answer, and then there's the
The
preferential.
truth.
Fried food is what I want.
Yeah,
Fresher food is what I try to do.
it's totally fair. Are you more cautious or bold?
Nope. Bold. Didn't matter what your
Perfect.
other answer was.
Just not gotcha.
Cannonballs in the pool or dip your toe in first?
Cannonballs. So I know no explanation. If the
You
water's
go.
cold, and I like to tell this, especially to young boys, because they think it's funny, they call it the nip and dip. Like if you cover your nipples, you can get in cold water a lot easier. And then for some reason you uncover them and it's fine. But if I get in without covering, it is so much harder to do. So nip and dip. Little boys love it.
So great. Um, Last one. Would you rather sleep in late or take a long midday nap?
Sleep in late.
Awesome. That's it for
I
our
have
speed
two more
round.
to add to this. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Man, I think I would love to fly. I know it's like there's so many more that would be more practical and better, but one, I don't like traveling. Like I don't like the time it takes me to get from point A to point B. And two, I've taught myself how to fly in my dreams, like through perpetual dreams where like I would levitate and had no control, and then eventually I could swim through the air and then I could fly like Superman. So it's like it would be really cool to be able to do that in real life. And the dreams are so real that there's times in reality I'm like, nope, it's not happening.
Still
You're
can't
not
do it.
dreaming right now.
And my last question, I think this is one of your favorites. Your Hogwarts house.
I would probably be Gryffindor, I think.
Gryffindor.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Is there anything else that you want to leave with our viewers?
Um, Man, so I do, again, there's things that I have learned and like to think of, like if you talk to somebody on their deathbed, and I've never actually done this, but you hear it, like you don't hear people saying, I wish I just had more time to work. I love working. It's enjoyable. So when you talk about your dream job, like I enjoy doing it. So you could almost call that a hobby, but it just happens to make money for us. Um, so if I had a job I hated, but it paid really well, that would be a different situation. But when you talk to people, I've also like read a book on near death experiences where people died and had an experience and come back. But it's like, if you guys are ever interested in studying something that's crazy, study that because they've done this, pulled it from around the world, people of all different spiritual backgrounds, ethnicities, cultural bias, all of that. And they have very commonly shared experiences that are like kind of crazy. There's no reason a person in India would die and like have the same kind of experience I do when I die. But the people who have done this and come back and they've studied it, there's a lot of commonalities. And without a doubt, the people that had, there's something that they refer to as a life review. So they'll meet like a being of light, and you can interpret that however you want. But everybody meets this being, not everybody, but the people who shared this experience all around the world, they meet a being of light, and this being will show them their entire life all at once, but in individual. It's almost like you can see your whole life all at once and every little detail and every part of it. And what was impactful to me was the part where the things that they thought this being of light would really like, oh, wow, you did this. That's so great. Like the highlights of their life that they would feel are highlights. The being of light just kind of passed right over. It's not significant to them. And what they cared about, like there was one story, this lady's like, but when I was a kid, my sister was mean to me and I was really mean back to her. And this being paused and just kind of took notice and was like, yeah, we probably could have found a better way to react then, right? Like those relational things, and it's always relational. And then what I love about it is the people who have this experience, they always feel judged. Like they're like, man, I realize I just messed up so much. And the cool thing is when they look to the being of light, this being was only giving them love, and the judgment was coming from themselves. So it's like when you can objectively look at your life from a different perspective and see all the good things and all the bad things you've done, you will be able to judge your own life in a much different way than we do now. Because right now we make excuses for poor choices and poor behavior and all this. But when people come back, they always come back realizing that the most important thing in this world is relationships. And I have a little bit of a hard time with that because I am kind of introverted. Like I loved COVID so much during that time because you have taken away my ability to fulfill any responsibilities. I can't do them. So it was like you took all the burden off of me and you gave me solitude with the people who I love the most. I really enjoyed that. It was hard for me to get back into the world. So for me personally, it is a little bit of a struggle, and I have to remind myself every day and every morning. I try to meditate and remind myself people are important. They're not problems. They're not interruptions to your day. They are like, if a person interrupts your day, they are more important than whatever the thing is they're interrupting. Like, so I remind myself of these things, and I try to live a life where relationships really matter the most, and being there for people and offering help. And I don't know, I mean, it does boil down to just being a good person who cares about others, which again, sometimes I struggle with. So I don't remember the question. Told you I'm dealing with a concussion, but that's for me like the thing that I try to live by that is sometimes the hardest thing, but I don't know.
It was, what do you want to leave people with? And I think that was a really good note.
Okay. All right. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for taking the time to meet with us.
Yeah.
And the viewers have learned a lot about you today, I am sure. I enjoyed this personally.
You learn a lot from all of these guys.
Yeah, totally. Best
Many
picture
faces of
ever.
John.
This has a name. It's called The Many Faces of Jonathan.
There you go. It's so good. We love it. Anyways, thank you so much. And look forward to seeing John at the Bloom Boss Summit. Yeah, can't wait to see you.
Very soon. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Join the Balloon Guild community for access to a growing library of balloon decor recipes, exclusive templates, webinars, and direct support from experts. Benefit from special discounts, members-only events, skill development opportunities, and a say in future content to elevate your business and expertise in the balloon decor industry. To join, visit theballoonguild.com now.